Hello friends, ever since the quality management systems ISO 9001 series started by international organization ISO in 1987, the standard has become so popular that it has established a series of revolutionary management systems in the service as well as the manufacturing sector. Now it is included in information technology and artificial intelligence also. Now there is no exception where this management system cannot be applied or cannot be utilized for the best possible results. In this series, the latest addition for this ISO is ISO 21001, which is the Educational Organization Management System, EOMS in brief. This standard first edition started in 2018. Then eventually it is revised in 2025. The latest version is ISO 21001 2025. In this brief session, I would like to give some insights of this standard and how this can be applied to educational institutions and what are the advantages in taking this standard along with the various other requirements of the educational institutions. As you know, the educational institutions need certain approvals through the government and statutory regulatory agencies. Be it is a school, college, technical college or medical college, whatsoever. In fact, this 21001 can be applied in all educational, irrespective of the level of the studies or the mode of the teaching, or for that matter, it's a university or a small elementary school. So this is the applicability of this standard, and this standard resulted in a very quick recognition in almost all the educational institutions. That is the reason the revision is done within 7 years, and the latest revision adds to the digitalization of the technology and utilization of the digitalization in educational field. So let us start with this brief introduction about 21001 2025 and what are the clauses or what are the elements or what are the requirements the standard foresees for the institution. First, let us understand why this 21,000 matters. Education is a outcome driven. Always the results are important in the education. Not only just results, but even the mode of teaching and the processes also. But ultimately, the results is the one which really makes the difference. With respect to the education, normally competition is the one, because it is a school or a college or a university, the people always look for the best. Like in India, the best educational institutions like IITs, IIMs, with respect to the legal field, it is a national law universities. And with respect to the medical colleges like All India Institute of Medical Sciences, those are all some of the benchmarks for this type of education system. So whether everybody can reach that benchmark is a very big question. So this is the one attempt where it gives a tool for all the educational system to reach that type of a benchmark. And with this benchmark, you will have the trust of the students, trust of the parents, trust of all the concerned interested parties. You can also meet the global. Like I said, it's a schools, colleges, universities, it's a technical education, training institutions, everything is covered under standard. And this is an international standard, as I told in the beginning itself, and it's a governance oriented. It's not just a documentation or it's just not an auditing type of a thing. It is a governance oriented. So what are the governance principles that we'll be discussing in brief? This is around a 1 hour session wherein we'll be only giving the brief introduction of this standard, and the further details will be having the future. In 2018 to 2025, one of the main reasons why this is revised is to incorporate and introduce a digital education and artificial intelligence and data focus and ethical governance. See, the digital education is there since almost one and a half decades in a different form. And AI is there for last 1 decade, it is there in the picture, and for last 5 years, its applicability is very much. And ethical governance, although it is not specifically told that a school itself or an educational institution itself is kind of a ethical governance that should be followed. How the ethics are built into the students starts only from the educational institution. But how really it is governed, that is more important. We talk about the ethics, but is it really followed, implemented, is a big question. So this standard emphasizes, focuses on ethical governance. Some of the core principles is the learner focus, equity, ethics, and improvement. What is the learner's focus? For any purpose, the result is that whoever is the taker, he should be satisfied, he or she or the institution, whether it is a students or whether it is a organizations. So whatever you are trying to implement your educational standards, ultimately your customers, whosoever, they should be satisfied and they have the best results from your organization. Similarly, the equity, the principles of the equity really indicates that how your approach is there towards the each angle of your educational parameters. And ethics is important because ethics talks about the morality. Ethics talk about how do's and don'ts, all those things are included. And ultimately, the very purpose of any quality is the improvement. This standard also speaks about the, in the 2025 standard, the main focus was on digital governance, learner protection, and academic integrity. What is a digital governance? The digitalization, use of the technology is normally we are considering as a digitalization. How the digitalization takes place? What are the procedures? Is simply computer is a digitalization? Is it simply the interactive board for the teaching is a digitalization? Is it the online trainings, online coaching is a digitalization? What exactly is the digitalization? All those aspects are included in this standard. How best we will be utilizing those facilities. Similarly, the learner's protection. Here, why we are talking about the protection of the learners? See, whatever as a teacher we teach, whether the students, whether they understand correctly or not, whatever the intended purpose of the standard or a subject, is it really going into the brains of the students? Are they really able to assess, analyze, and assimilate these things? So that is exactly the focus will be the protection of the learner. So he should be totally understanding what exactly intended to bring or built in him. And finally, the academic integrity. Academic integrity is very much important because we have a lot of the recognition accreditation agencies. For the universities, the UGC, for the technical AICTU. So like that, similarly, there are so many statutory bodies out there. Even then, there are a lot of problems with the education, and we see India's some of the best institutions, best colleges are not even reaching the top hundreds in the world ranking. I'm not just talking about the ranking, but the quality. See, today everybody wanted to go to the Oxford or the Harvard or Cambridge to learn something. Why? Are we losing, are we lacking those facilities here? What exactly is the reason? Why not our institutions, which are of the world standard curriculums, we have it? Why we are not able to encourage our own students going out of the country and learning from the Harvard or other institutions? Because academic curriculums integrity of the academic is somehow missing. There is a gap. I don't say it is not there, but there is a gap. Because of this gap, people are moving out. Now it is a time, with the application of these international standards, we should ensure that our institutions are also on par with any institution across. Now, some of the benefits, be it commercially or academically, reputation is one important. Today we have the reputation with the ISBs, IITs, IIMs. That reputation should be on par with some of the world institutions. And not only that, even each university, each college should also have such kind of a reputation. That is the main thing. And that reputation has to be retained. It's not just for 1 year. Like some universities get the top ranking in first 10, first 20. But after some time, they lose their rank and goes to the 40s, 50s, or sometimes beyond hundreds also. That should not be the happening. So it is a consistency of your academic teaching. All those systems should be ensured. Then the compliance with the regulations. We can see, I mean, rather we are seeing every day in the newspapers that recognition for some of the medical colleges is cancelled, or some of the engineering colleges are suspended. Why? What is the reason? Where exactly the things are going on? Students are giving the money, the management is spending the money, but how the things are going bad? Compliance. The compliance is one of the important things, because there is no focus on the compliance. People have only some commercial or a place, simply placements. The compliance is very much important. And this compliance will not only be immediate complied with the requirement, but it has to be thinking in future also, like a risk reduction, whatever comes. Risk with respect to the competition, risk with respect to the dilution of the principles of the educational system. Now we have the new education policy 2020, NEP. So this NEP, what exactly the policies of the NEP, how the policies are really implemented in various educational institutions, schools, colleges. All those things, the compliancy is important. And we have to see what are the risks that are going to be associated with. Then some of the most important thing is the responsibility of the management, which includes the leadership, ownership, resource allocation, performance review. How a leadership should be able to handle those situations. A leadership is nothing but not simply taking the students along with. It involves everything. Understanding the students' concepts, understanding the teachers' concepts, understanding the parents' ideas, everything, and ultimately you have to integrate all those things into such a system that it becomes a foolproof. And that has to be managed continuously through your leadership. Responsibility is more important in any leader, and which you require the allocation of the resources, and ultimately you have to review the performance on a periodic basis. See, students are reviewed for their performance through internal exams and external exams, but total arena of this entire educational process, is it being reviewed regularly? Some audits, some AICTE will come to the engineering some team and they decide, and most of these visits are pre-informed. So I'll prepare accordingly. Except if there are certain complaints are there on some of the systems, they are surprised, and obviously any complaint, any team, that results in a suspension. But why all this should happen? If you really review your systems periodically, then things will be better. That See, this standard, like ISO 9000, this has a 10 clauses, and each clause is aligned with some of the ISO other standards like 9001. So we briefly discuss the clause by clause what. So first we have the context of the organization. In your case or in our case, the context of the organization is the school or a college or educational institution. What is the context? What exactly the purpose of your organization? What for you are doing it? And who are the internal and external parties and internal and external issues? The issues includes situations, problems, be it a financial, be it is a approval, be it the academic balance, all those things will come. You have to really analyze what are your internal issues and external issues. Internal issues include your infrastructure, your student movements, and your teaching faculty. All those things are internal issues. And external issues, how your institution is looked upon by the other people with respect to the statutory bodies or other societies. Those are all some of the things you have to map it and then identify what are the issues. Then you have to take action accordingly. And the technology and society are more important. You're with the changing technology, the moment you try to do today something with the latest technology, within no time the technology is changed or upgraded. So are you really ready for that? And the technology also gives the risk of the security, like cyber security we have. See, whatever the thing you are going to put it in the system, you are opening a risk, that is the cyber security. How you are going to manage that? How your impact is directly impacting on your society as well as your school education system or school or a college. Then who are the interested parties that you have to identify? Here the interested parties is not simply the learners or parents or faculty, but everybody who is associated directly or indirectly. So society overall you have to consider, including your internal and external parties. Basically internals are your learners, parents, faculty, and regulatory bodies, and they're all the interested parties, which includes the external as well as the internal. And ultimately you have to define the scope. When you go for this 21,001, what is the scope? What are the areas you wanted to cover? Based on which you have to establish your standards. Sometimes it may not be possible to have the entire society, entire organization go for the 21,000 implementation. So you want to start with some few classes, maybe the uh, higher classes or universities or colleges or some of the technical base education. You have to decide which is your priority, based on which ultimately you have to cover entire educational system or organization you have it. So entire campus, what are the things? How your scope is there? Is it only offline like a classroom, or is it online, or you also outsource services for certain things? So all those things, are they covered under the scope? You have to. Then you have to have your policy. This policy includes satisfaction of the learner, ethics, and the compliance. So what is the satisfaction of a learner? The student or whosoever you consider, once they come to your educational institute and learn something, and at the end of the day when they go, it is not just the degree or the certificate that they are carrying out. They are carrying out the image of your organization. Like I said, the IITs, IIMs in India or Harvard and other universities, other countries, the image they are carrying. The image certainly builds the personality of that particular person. So it is a combination of the image and the performance of that particular student or a candidate. All those things have to be considered, how the satisfaction of the learner is there, and what are the ethical principles you will be using it, and how the compliance system you will be using it. Friends, this is the first part of my session, and I'll be continuing the next part after this. And please do subscribe this channel. This channel will be bringing the various educational related information, and particularly with respect to the international standards, educational systems in India, and how you can perform you can excel your performance. All those things will be covered gradually in this system. So thank you very much for the day, and I will see you very soon. Thank you. Good day.